A day after. A day after.
Welcome to Leaping Larry's Revolutionary Reading Theatre.
Jeremiah, good morning, comrade. Welcome in. I hope you're doing well. We are just about to read our Kim Jong-il, Socialism is a Science. Let me just make a quick adjustment. Good morning, Mama. Welcome in, comrade. Great to see you. Right, we are on chapter 2 of this work. No worries, Mama, no worries. Great to see you. Everybody follow our comrade Mama. Alright, we're reading Comrade Kim Jong-il's Socialism is a Science. And we are on chapter 2. Page 13 if you're following along on a PDF. Our socialism is based on the Juche-oriented view of and attitude of humanity. I'm going to substitute humanity for man just because it'll be more understandable for everybody without having to explain every single time. About it being a translational thing and not like a gender term meaning, men. So just to be clear, we're gonna substitute it with humanity. The view of and attitude to humanity are the basic questions concerning what view and attitude one has in one's understanding of the development of society and the revolution. They constitute the standard for the scientific character and validity of ideas and theories, and of lines and policies. The scientific character and truth of our socialism lies in the fact that it is based on an absolutely correct, Juche-oriented view and attitude to humanity. The Juche idea has given a scientific definition of humanity's essential qualities for the first time in history. Sinister Hand, good morning, comrades. Everybody follow our comrade Sinister Hand as well. I'll get shoutouts when we're done reading our chapter today. Salute. Understanding man's essential qualities is not merely a matter of science, but a socio-political issue, which reflects class interests. Throughout history, serious philosophical arguments have taken place on this issue between progressive and reactionary classes. The reactionary ruling classes and their mouthpieces distorted humanity's essential qualities in the interests of the exploiting class, in order to justify their exploitative society. Philosophical arguments on humanity's essential qualities formally boil down to two dominant views. One regarded humanity as a spiritual being, and the other considered him to be a material being. According to the religious idealist view, which regards humanity as a purely spiritual being, humanity is a product of a certain supernatural, mysterious being, and their destiny is also decided by the latter. By means of their religious idealist view of humanity, the reactionary ruling classes and its spokespersons preached of that the miserable lot of the working class who suffered exploitation and oppression was their unavoidable fate, and therefore they had to submit to their predestined lot. The view which regards humanity as simply a natural biological being makes it impossible to understand the qualitative difference between humanity, who acts purposefully and consciously under the regulation and control of consciousness, and a biological being which is governed by instinct. The reactionary ruling class and its spokesperson use this view to justify capitalist society, which is ruled by the quote-unquote law of the jungle. Having recourse to the reactionary viewpoint and attitude towards humanity, the renegades of socialism are restoring capitalism through the introduction of bourgeois liberalization and the capitalist market economy. Speaking, more specifically, of Eastern Europe there. Humanity is neither purely a spiritual being nor a simple biological being. Humanity is a social being who lives and acts in social relationships. The fact that humanity is a social being is a major quality which distinguishes them from other biological beings. Marxism defined humanity's essential quality as an ensemble of social relations. This definition rendered a historic service by shattering the unscientific, reactionary view which regarded humanity as a purely spiritual being or a simple biological being. However, the definition of humanity's essential quality as the sum total of social relations does not provide a comprehensive elucidation of humanity's own essential qualities. Consequently, it cannot correctly explain the relations between humanity and the world or the position and role of humanity in the world. The Juche idea has, for the first time, found a scientific solution to the question of humanity's own essential qualities, and on this basis it has thrown a new light on their position and role in the world. In the past, too, many attempts were made to elucidate humanity's essential qualities by dealing mainly with their own features. For example, attempts to define humanity as a speaking, working, or thinking being. These attempts, however, all dealt with some aspect of humanity's actions, which are the expressions of their essential qualities. Humanity is a social being with independence, creativity, and consciousness. Herein lies their essential qualities. And those things that were just mentioned, these parts right here, speaking, working, thinking, these are all, as it just said, right? These are all an expression of those qualities: independence, creativity, and consciousness. So they can't be seen as the same thing as being like the things that define humanity as humanity. Independence is an attribute of social humanity, who wants to live and develop independently as master of the world and their destiny, free from any fetters or restrictions. Creativity is an attribute of social humanity who transforms the world and shapes their destiny purposefully and consciously in order to meet their needs. Consciousness is social humanity's attribute. It regulates all their activities for understanding and transforming the world and themselves. Independence and creativity are ensured by consciousness. Humanity is distinguished qualitatively from other animals which act instinctively in that they conduct independent and creative activities with consciousness. Of course, humanity's activities is the process whereby they express their independence, creativity, and consciousness. Independent, creative, and conscious activities constitute humanity's mode of existence. In other words, the way in which humanity develops, not as individuals, but humanity taking as the whole of humanity. That's the mode of our existence, the mode of our development. And always trying to move that to a higher plane, a struggle for advancement. Humanity, as a social being with independence, creativity, and consciousness, is inconceivable outside of their developed organism. especially their highly developed brain. Their developed organism is the biological basis of their independence, creativity, and consciousness. However, the organism itself does not give birth to independence, creativity, or consciousness. Humanity's independence, creativity, and consciousness are social attributes, which are formed and developed through a socio-historical process, where they act in social relationships. In other words, it cannot come intrinsically, just naturally from our biological beings. They come from the intercourse with other humans. And that this intercourse itself is part of what defines humanity as the being that we are. Because they have independence, creativity, and consciousness, humanity can shape their destiny through their own efforts. The fate of a biological being depends on how it adapts itself to its objective environment. A biological being is part of nature and its fate is decided by objective environments, so to speak. Unlike biological beings, humanity is the master and transformer of the world. They shape their destiny by transforming the objective world to meet their needs. With the development of their independence, creativity, and consciousness, humanity's position and role as the master and transformer of the world, in other words, of their own destiny, of their own world, is strengthened. And of course, socialism is a qualitative leap in that advance to realizing humanity as being the master of their own destiny and the transformers of themselves, right? Socialism is a qualitative step compared with capitalism. Which is why, of course, Kim Jong-il, Kim Il-sung, and even Engels defined communism as the society in which humanity would become the true masters of their own destiny. That's not something that only Kim Il-sung said, right? Engels says this himself as well. And even says that with the further development of socialism and reaching the higher stage of communism, humanity's consciousness will play an even more positive effect in the transformation of human society. So even Engels recognized this. It's just that Juche gets down to the nuts and bolts of why this is the case. And in the process of doing so, helps us to understand humanity's development both before class society and after class society. And that's important because remember, this communism, does the ending of class antagonisms, does that mean the end of humanity's development? Well, we sure as hell hope not. We hope that only means the beginning, right? The idea being that this little blip of class society that we are stuck in actually only ends up being a very small, like, just a minuscule stage in human development. And it already is. Like, you take the whole history of us living in communal, in collectivist societies, well, that was a longer period of time than what has been since the emergence of class society, right? So Marx's explanations about, the history of hitherto, I can't remember exactly what he says. The history of hitherto something or other, written history, is the history of class struggle. Well, that's true when you consider history, in the context of since the emergence of class. But again, that is such a minuscule, just like such a small section of humanity. And like there was so much development before classes emerged, and there will be so much development after class is overcome. And so Marxism is an extremely important thing, and it helps us understand class society and how to overcome class society. But like a mistake that USSR made, which DPRK and other socialist countries have realized, is that you need to actually develop a new theory to understand not only a changing relationship of class struggle when the working class gains the ruling position of society, aka socialism, because Marxism has some predictions and some suppositions about socialism, but it doesn't have like the data in order to give us the same analysis of socialist society as it did of capitalist society. And that's why it's so important that as socialism develops and consolidates, you have new theory which then can explain human development outside of just Marxism and Leninism. Thank you, Cinnamon. The history of all hitherto existing society is the history of class struggles. Yes. Which is when you think about a lot of societies that predate, or even societies that existed alongside, like when there was classes in Europe, in other places where there was no classes, well, the society wasn't clearly developing through class struggle at that point. So it was something else. It was the development of humanity's independence, creativity, and consciousness. Where in some countries, in some locations, led to this emergence of class with certain, because something that I see certain like dialectical materialists even make the mistake of is the assumption that, oh, as soon as abundance is realized anywhere, that will inevitably split the society into these different classes. And the problem with that analysis is the idea that basically no collectivist society, they could never realize any sort of like abundance. And so that's why class societies never emerged in like certain in certain societies that hadn't been touched by colonialism. But I think there's like something, there's like a mistaken sort of like assumption there, where there was societies that had developed for, you know, thousands of years before European colonialism arrived, that weren't having class emerging, that were able to realize abundant harvests and abundant fucking food sources and everything else, right? So I think that that's because, again, the key difference is that in some places where there was abundance, an idea emerged among certain sections: individualism, greed, so on. Where even though there was abundance in other areas, that didn't emerge, because it's not just something intrinsic that goes along with there being abundance. Class is guaranteed to break out. I think that that ignores human consciousness and the role that humans can play in positively affecting their own destiny, even in societies where they don't occupy the ruling position. Because the way in which rulers have to rule is by directing the energy of the masses in order to serve their own interests. Congratulations, March. You just caught Pugelsari. Hey, Bob, we're reading Socialism as Science by Kim Jong-il. So, sorry for that sidetrack. Allow me to continue. With the development of their independence, creativity, and consciousness, humanity's position and role as the master and transformer of the world, aka their own destiny, is strengthened. This is expressed in their transformation of nature and society. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate that. As humanity's independent ideological consciousness and creative ability develop, and their role increases, social wealth increases, and social relations improve. Now, social wealth means like the stage of knowledge that we're at, aka like more and more complex scientific knowledge, the ability to create more and more complex structures, you know, going from making making wrought iron to being able to make like complex steel or nanotechnology, so on and so forth. This is expressions of our increasing social wealth, which can both exist, which can be expressed in material things, but also is expressed in our own ideas as well. So, like, for example, you could say that social wealth is also like the overcoming of certain backwards ideas like homophobia, transphobia. This could be seen as an increasing of our social wealth. No, no. Because we're not talking about social. Remember, whenever we're talking about Juche philosophy, we're not talking about humanity as individuals, right? So when we're talking about social wealth, we're not talking about just simply individuals' abilities to influence others. No. We're talking about the social wealth that humanity itself creates. And that is like the knowledge to create complex things, or the knowledge, various scientific knowledge that increases and advances over the generations. These are all expressions of social wealth, as is like overcoming certain, like, ideas, or increasing those ideas, or improving our philosophical understanding of the world itself. These are all aspects of social wealth. And now, social relations improving means like your relations to others. In other words, the more equal, the more politically equal everybody becomes, the more we can say that social relations have enhanced, right? In a society where there is exploiters and exploited, and oppressed and oppressors, we can say that the social relations need improvement, right? Yeah, no, social wealth is simply those the ideological and the objective knowledge products that humanity creates. That's what social wealth means. And Marxism originally included this in the social being. So when Marx talked before about humanity being a totality of social being, he included the social wealth in that as well. If you want to know one major difference between the Marxist understanding of humanity and the Juche understanding. In historical development, each generation starts with the social wealth and social relations created by its predecessor. See? Here's so again, if we think about one generation going from, having a certain technology of creating metal, or of maybe burning rocket fuel, or whatever it is, right? And then think about how the next generation by then can improve that. And then a generation after that, it has improved again, right? And it keeps going like this. It keeps building. The social wealth keeps increasing. And then the improving social relations is just as I said. So we have the social relations created by our predecessors in a capitalist society, though that is relations that include oppressor and oppressed, and exploited, and we have to make use of these, right? These objective conditions have an important effect on social development, but these conditions themselves are the historical product of humanity's independent, creative, and conscious activities. They are also used and developed by humanity. Yes, they turned our social wealth into intellectual property. Yes, they did. Favorable as the existing objective conditions may be, if the independence, creativity, and consciousness of humanity who exploits and develops these conditions are not high and brought into full play, society cannot develop quickly. Because there's always something fighting against that development in order to ensure it serves the interests of the exploiter class, which is what leads to a certain restriction of humanity's development in order to ensure that happens. Which is expressed, I think, in the way that socialism unleashes those productive forces in a way that it was never seen before. You take the example of USSR and China developing, compared to the, compared to capitalist industrialization. Even if objective conditions are disadvantaged, society can rapidly develop when humanity's independence, creativity, and consciousness are high and put into full effect. This means that the historical process of social development is decided by the level of development and of mobilization of humanity's independence, creativity, and consciousness. For a long time, the exploited working masses wanted to live in an equitable, new society free from exploitation and oppression. But they could not fulfill their desire in the past because their independent ideological consciousness and creative ability were not high and their role was at a low level. Humanity transforms nature and develops society and history. With the rapid development of their independent ideological consciousness and the enhancement of their role, the development of society and history is promoted, and the revolution and construction are successfully speed up. The history of social development is, in the long run, the history of the development of humanity's independence, creativity, and consciousness, so to speak. Because they are independent, creative, and conscious, humanity is the most precious and powerful being. And precious in the sense that we have the ability to effect changes and impact all of these other beings in our world. And therefore we have to recognize that ability to do so. And we have to use that in a way that protects our environment and protects diversity. Not only for the sake of everything, but it's also in the interest and for the sake of humanity as well. So, humanity is the most precious and powerful being. Humanity is the only master and remaker of the world. In other words, again, when we talk about remaker and master of the world, we're talking about our own world, our own destiny. Nothing in the world is more precious or powerful than humanity. So again, when we're talking about the world in this philosophy, we're talking literally our world. So nothing in our world is more precious than humanity. Not the productive forces, not the bourgeois interests. It's humanity. And therefore, everything in our society should serve humanity. But right now, it doesn't. It serves, of course, bourgeois interests. Why? Because bourgeois reactionaries do not regard humanity as the most precious being, but as a means for material production, and an insignificant being who possesses only labor power, which is bought and sold as a commodity. They also consider them a powerless being, dominated by money, not as a powerful being who shapes their own destiny through their own efforts. The betrayers of socialism are restoring capitalism and eliminating all the popular policies established by socialism. They regard unemployment and poverty as means for pressuring people, in order to force them to compete and in order to increase labor intensity. They grovel at the feet of imperialists, expecting aid and cooperation, quote unquote, from Western capitalist countries, instead of believing in the strength of their own people. All this is due to their reactionary bourgeois view of humanity. Again, throwing shade at Eastern European socialism there for a minute. At least the leaders of Eastern European socialism specifically, which I think we see maybe in this work. If not, I recommend checking out Fundamentals of Revolutionary Party Building, which I have done a reading of. Humanity-centered socialism is based on the Juche-oriented socio-historical principles, which provided a new scientific clarification of the law and socio-historical development by focusing on humanity. Socialism, centered on humanity, is the most scientific socialism. It makes everything serve humanity and solves every problem by enhancing their creative role, based on the Juche-oriented view of and attitude of humanity. Our socialism champions and thoroughly ensures humanity's independence, and quickly improves and gives full play to their ideological consciousness and creative ability in order to strengthen as never before the position and role of humanity as the master and transformer of the world, and to press on with the revolution and construction. The Juche idea also newly clarified the essence and the value of humanity's life. When humanity is regarded as an organic body. Their life means the physical life. However, they are not a being who only leads a physical life. The Juche idea has indicated for the first time in history that humanity has socio-political integrity, as well as a physical life. Physical life is humanity's life as an organic body, whereas socio-political integrity is humanity's life as a social being. Socio-political integrity is the life which is unique to humanity as a social being. For humanity, physical life is valuable. Obviously, we need to eat, we need to be healthy, so on and so forth, right? Only when we have physical life can we acquire socio-political integrity. Obviously, we gotta stay alive. In this sense, we can say that the material life which implements the demand for physical life is the life which implements their primary needs. As humanity is a social being who is different from a simple biological being, their demand for material life constantly increases as their independence, creativity, and consciousness develop, and as society develops. Their material life affects their social political integrity. A stable and sound material life fully guarantees their demand for physical life, and at the same time, it constitutes a material guarantee for the maintenance and development of their socio-political integrity. Now, something of what he's speaking of here can be seen in the Soviet Union, actually, and something I would say that the USSR failed to sort of combat, which we talked about again when we read Fundamentals of Revolutionary Party Building, was as the generations changed, people sort of forgot what life was like before socialism, right? And so they became more susceptible to falling for this capitalist propaganda. And in this atmosphere at the same time, you had certain measures being taken by the Soviet leadership at the time under the guise of like opening up, not in the way that China did, by the way, in a completely like way worse reactionary way of just like opening the mosquito nets, and all of this propaganda, this liberal like propaganda that just like glorified the West and basically shamed like socialism in Eastern Europe and stuff, was just allowed to run amok. And people started to like get all kinds of illusions about like American society, and they understandably, as their lives improved, began to demand more and more, right? And when there was this perception of the West having it so much better, it led to some serious undermining of like trying to get the masses to understand that they had to advance their own society by their own efforts, and that American society only had these things because of an exploitation of the global South and of its own workforce, so on and so forth. That was a huge failing there. Which is why ideological education is so important. But, so for humanity, physical life is precious, but their socio-political integrity is more precious. It is the intrinsic need of humanity as a social being to value their socio-political integrity more than their physical life. If a human only seeks to satisfy their demand for physical life and not their demand for socio-political life, their life can never be an honorable one, no matter how affluent they are. Such a material life will be reduced to a deformed and abnormal life, no better than an animal life, which will run counter to humanity's intrinsic nature. And this is expressed, by the way, in two ways. So it's expressed in the greed and the insatiable greed of basically the capitalists themselves is in one way in which it's expressed, and then the other way in which it's expressed is the alienation that comes as a result of being unequal to other members of the socio-political collective, which is, of course, what the experience of most of us is that latter one, whereby we live disconnected from our fellow people, and so our socio-political integrity is an unequal one, and one which people feel alienated or missing something, or that they have no voice, so on and so forth. Reminds me of a story my dad keeps telling in a horrified fashion, how during the succession of Slovenia from Yugoslavia, there was a TV program showing how many brands of beer we can now purchase in the stores. Oh dear. Yeah, exactly what I'm talking about. It's like, look at all these different brands to eat. It's like, sure, we no longer have a say in our arts. We have lost all of these cultural things. We have no longer have the ability to, to affect this or that policy. But hey, we got lots of beer and Pizza Hut now. Right? And the thing that is left out of this analysis, and again, there's even like small individual proofs of this as well. For example, somebody who lives in a oppressive society or something like that, think of the lengths people will go to in order to realize liberation, right? In order just for their nation to have a crumb of socio-political integrity and equality and some sort of voice amongst other nations, think about the lengths at which people will go to in order to realize that. It's not enough for humanity to simply eat and be well clothed and so on and so forth. Like, yes, those things are important, but even more important is to be an equal member of the socio-political collective, and not to have somebody restricting other people's independence, not to have somebody exploiting your labor, right? Have capitalism influence every decision that you make. That is, for humanity, that is more important than the physical life. For humanity, physical life is precious. I already read that part. Independence is the life and soul of humanity. Humanity, an independent social being, desires to live independently, free from any subordination or shackles. The fact that humanity lives independently means that they live as the master of the world and their own destiny, maintaining their position and exercising their rights as such. Only when humanity lives as a social being, exercising their right to independence and implementing their demand for independence, can it be said to enjoy a dignified life, maintaining socio-political integrity. If they lose their independence and it is subordinated to others, they are as good as dead, socially and politically, even though they are alive. Humanity's desire to live independently is realized first of all through an independent political life. When humanity is subordinated socially and politically, they cannot lead any kind of independent life. As socio-political integrity is humanity's most precious life, a noble life for them is to maintain and exalt socio-political integrity. Humanity receives socio-political integrity from the social collective. The social collective is the parent body of humanity's social political integrity. Therefore, the worth of humanity's life depends on how they are connected with the social collective. Humanity's life becomes noble when they are loved and trusted by the social collective, and it is worthless when they are forsaken by it. Humanity enjoys the love and trust of the social collective when they consider the interests of the social collective to be dearer than those of individuals, and when they faithfully serve the social collective. In the final analysis, the greatest value and worth of humanity's life is to lead an independent and creative life, enjoying the love and trust of the social collective, while at the same time combining their own destiny with that of the social collective and serving it heart and soul. This is the way for humanity to enhance their social political integrity and lead a worthy life as a human being, as a social being. Today, Bourgeois reactionaries and renegades of socialism regard the exploitation and domination of humanity by humanity as something normal and consider humanity as a base being who only pursues their own material desires. This clearly demonstrates the reactionary nature of the bourgeois viewpoint and attitude towards the essence and worth of humanity's life. True human life, which enables everyone to enhance their most precious socio-political integrity and fully meet the demands of their physical life, can only be realized admirably in a socialist society based on collectivism. In this society, people are free from all manner of exploitation and oppression, domination and subordination, and can lead an independent and creative life in social, political, and all other areas. In socialist society, we must organize people's organizational and ideological life properly, as well as their cultural life, in order to enable them to lead an independent and creative life, with a high consciousness and an ability which befits the masters of society. People can make great contributions to society and the collective and lead a worthy life as proud members of the society and the collective only when they are fully equipped with an independent consciousness and have comprehensively developed creative ability. Through their revolutionary organizational and ideological life and their moral and rich cultural life. Our socialism is genuinely human-centered socialism. It regards humanity as the most precious and fully meets their intrinsic requirements. It thus enables everyone to keep and greatly enhance their socio-political integrity. It also fully meets the demands of their physical life. Humanity-centered socialism enables all members of society to live in harmony, enjoying the love and trust of society and the collective, and to lead a completely noble and worthy life, while working devotedly for society and the collective, with a high degree of consciousness and creative ability. Chapter 2. There you go, comrades. There is Chapter 2 of Kim Jong-il, Socialism is a Science. In the next one, we're going to take a look at Chapter 3, which will talk about how the masses are the motive force of history, briefly touches on the role in which leaders play as members of the masses and the revolution, and so on. Sorry, we destroyed your self-determination, but on the plus side, now you have access to nacho cheese or Cool Ranch insulin. Free of charge? Oh god, no. No. Just access to it. It'll cost you an arm and a leg. So there we go. Next Tuesday, we will finish this work completely. This will be so next week will be our final read of this, and then we will be doing Black Shirts and Reds by Michael Parenti. I hope you're all enjoying our read, and again, you can find it later right here on Twitch under the playlist live readings, or you can get it from my YouTube as well.